been yelling at Smee here for the last little bit. Okay, now I've got that set. Now I can go back to OBS and I can share my screen properly. Whoop. Almost. Brave. There we go. Gold. We've been talking about this point of resistance here for quite some time. In fact, we first saw it really get bumped at the beginning of April. Prices have had a very difficult time getting over this 48.50 level. Currently hidden underneath that line, but not showing weakness. We broke out of that trend line, but technically this is just a temporary test. If the price drops, we will likely create a new low. Gold will go on sale. And we will know, probably for sure by the end of this week, whether or not it's able to continue creating new highs. Because that is also something very much occurring. This low here did dip below the low there on Thursday. But it hasn't broken structure because this is currently market structure. So if we are not able to, if I say if gold is not able to maintain that support, then it will likely come down to retest some of these old levels around 4,600. Even, I would say, 45, the 45.75 area. That's kind of the next major pivot point. I'm going to go ahead and brighten this up a little bit. There we go. Silver did get up above that pivot point, and it looks like it's getting its support already. This little jump up here on Friday provided a signal of anticipation for another high, especially this low resting above the low that found the support back on Thursday. Encouraging to see. Oil climbing and climbing. Oh no, this is not oil. Sorry, this is the US 30. Yeah, I think oil even, oil has been taking a little bit of a dip. So US 30 climbing. So that means that the faith in the US economy is being restored. How long does that last? Well, right now we are at a very critical point. This area here, super high volume. We made that stretch up to the all-time high at 50,000 there at the first half of February, and that's great, fine and dandy. But it has a lot of volume where we are right now at this 49,400 level-ish. So we'll see as the week progresses. If it goes above that, we'll probably make another new all-time high. Imagine that given the continued rise here, we may have to change up some numbers on our gold here. Let's just call up the calculator here, and we are taking the US 30, which is currently at 49,375. Divide that by the gold price, which is 48. Where'd it go? 48. We'll go 48.09. Yeah, so it went up a little bit in gold. Almost 1/10 of an ounce. And then for silver, we also do the same math. 49,375 divided by price of silver at 79.95, we'll say. It's gone up in silver. 617, actually 618 when we round it. So that's our update on the US markets. Look at how the price is low. Back here at this high, it was 10. It's 10 ounces. We are now over 10 ounces, but not yet at that price. So technically, even though the markets are showing the price is lower than that all-time high, gold is showing that it's worth more. Isn't that an interesting shift? This is why I like watching the US 30, because it helps us recognize where the faith is being directed. People are beginning to have faith in the US economy. And I say people, we're talking the market in general. Oil retreating on Friday down to the lows that we saw right after the big spike as the war went on. You know, this is resulting because Trump is being lauded as the savior of the economy because the Strait of Hormuz opened up again. But, you know, it's just be careful, because the Strait of Hormuz opening up could be as trustworthy as an Israeli ceasefire. It all hangs in the balance. They gotta ramp this up. There's no way that the oil can stay at this price. Why? Because we know this. Why? Because the futures are at $150 right now, $200 in some markets. So yen actually strengthening over the last little while here. That trend has started since March 26th, creating some lower lows and lower highs. Again, it's upside down, I know, but as this chart goes down, it increases the value of the Japanese yen. If this chart goes up, it decreases the value of the yen. I don't see, like, mathematically, it's absurd to me that it has gone on as long as it has. This is the thing. They can just manipulate this all the way to the bank, as they say. Amazon reaching up, almost touching the all-time highs. It pretty much is, when we take into consideration that with stocks we need to be a little bit forgiving with price action. You know, it's not an exact science over here, but that technically the valuation did not reach an all-time high, but the price action certainly came back to test it. Right now, sitting on top of the previous high that acted as a resistance, the last attempt, right now, on top of that, possibly using that as support, we'll know in the coming days. Oracle creating a new high, coming up from that major pivot point, using it as support. That's encouraging for the price action. I would imagine that we'll see some more momentum with this. I kind of see it as like we had the same thing happen with, you know, Pfizer, Moderna, those stocks when we were dealing with all the COVID stuff, because that was the emergency, right? That was the big crisis, and so they had to ham it up a bit. And so what we saw was during that time, even though everybody knew that it was a bubble, anybody in the markets knew that that was a bubble, we did see that bubble go for quite a ways. You know, let's go look up. Let's see. Let's bring up Pfizer here. Oh, that's stocks, or that's cryptos. Pfizer. There it is on the New York Stock Exchange. We're going to go back in time here. Got to zoom out a little bit so that we can go and see how this played out. Right here, 2020, right? So this bubble went up. You know, this low was in March of 2020 just because all the stocks went down. But that Pfizer had this bubble, And while it was going up, everybody in the markets were like, oh, yeah, this will be a bubble. We know that this isn't going to last, but we're investing in it anyways because there's a pandemic. Right? And so then that resulted in a growth, from after COVID to its high, it doubled. And in stocks, that's a big thing. We see doubling happening in cryptos and we're like, oh, that's nothing when we can see 700% in cryptos. But 100% in stocks, that's significant. So the same type of thing I think we're going to see with companies like Oracle and Palantir, simply because they are the infrastructure to deal with the next crisis, the digital crisis, the cyber crisis, the AI wars, which I think are going to manifest themselves as chip wars, more specifically, because those have to be phased out, right? This is the thing about every war that has ever occurred. Whenever we see the tools being used for the weapons of war that are being deployed are always the offloading of old technology. That's what war is. We see these munitions being thrown around, but that's just because we're getting rid of stock. We don't actually, if we meant business, we would be using the top secret stuff. These chips are obsolete already. With knowing what chips are being manufactured today, they're building computer chips that use crystal to pass light through tubes that almost touch each other, wherein quantum entanglement occurs between the photons of light to produce the transmission of data. Okay? There is nothing about these old chips, which, by the way, Oracle is the data center, but NVIDIA builds the chips. There is nothing about these chips that are relevant to today's technology. They are offloading old tech, creating a metaverse of terror to get people to invest in them so that they can just take the wealth. Audrey Lynn, you got your nose pointing.
How old is the current technology? How old is the current technology? I mean, like how long?
This transistor model? Yeah, this is back from the 50s, the 1950s. It's just they got to be good and better and more efficient and, smaller and all the rest. And so, but it's only because they've been able to microscopically go down and assemble the molecules atom by atom. But the technology itself is no different from how it was back then. It was just they couldn't go down to the size of an atom to make a transistor anymore.
Wow.
That's all. It's the same tech, just smaller, microscopic, nanoscopic at the moment. But they can't go smaller. It's impossible.
They've hit their wall.
Yeah, so they have to use other tech to make to be relevant, to increase the productivity, to increase the speed, to increase the capacities of these machines. They have to go to a different technology, and that was always known.
But they've been putting it off because the new technology is far superior to the old in like every way.
They got to milk the old technology for all it's worth. And the best way to do that is to get people to rally against a threat, a crisis. Never let a crisis go to waste. And the crisis is the cyber security that they're going to pose as the crisis. You thought the last virus was fake. Now it's meta.
Can you say more about that?
Yeah. How do I describe the metavirus? It's because it's all fabrication. Let's take a look at what happened with Anthropic over the last couple of weeks. Anthropic is a major developer for the language learning model known as Claude. And Claude has always been on the benchmarks for reasoning at the highest levels, outpacing the others head and shoulders. And a couple of weeks ago, there was a leak. No, you know what? Actually, it was probably 3 weeks ago now. There was a leak where the entire code base for Claude Code, which is the main engine, it's an infrastructure. It's kind of like you've got the model, but that really is only 2% of what makes it work. Claude Code is the container around the model that gives its capacities of being able to code apps or do software development, or if you want to have it run your emails for you. You know, a lot of people are conducting triage on their email boxes right now, and they're spending $100 a week to just have the model take care of its email. So it doesn't you don't have to check your emails and respond to things. Why would you do that? You just have the machine do it. And you know, it's funny because it's overkill. It's like, whoa, you need a machine to write 2 lines back to, you know, your coworker? Yep, apparently. But that's what's going on. 3 weeks ago, the entire code base for Claude Code, which was under lock and key, and nobody ever got to see that. In fact, it was built compartmentalized by teams of people who leveraged LLMs to build their compartment. So nobody actually ever saw the whole thing. Well, it got leaked, and everybody saw it. It's open. You can go and download it now. That was 3 weeks ago. And, you know, everybody was like, oh, this is going to be terrible for Anthropic. Now what are they going to do? Their secrets have been let out of the bag. Well, a week later, you think that was an accident? A week later, Anthropic announced Mythos. And Mythos is the new model that's coming out. And it's, get this, their own PR said, it's too dangerous. We can't release it. We built it, but we recognize we are so much more moral than everybody else. Even though we built something this dangerous, we are moral enough to not release it to the public.
And so the public just is screaming for it now.
Oh yeah, now they want it more than ever. Well, okay, so wait a second. Your entire code base, you know, there's the I didn't finish saying that. There's the model for Claude Code, which is Opus is the name of the model. Opus runs Claude Code, but Opus itself, the language model, is like 5% of the infrastructure. 95% of the infrastructure that makes it do its work is the container around the model. That's what Claude Code is. That container got released, and a week later, you've got this Mythos that's supposed to be so amazing that it's too dangerous to release to the public, and you're holding it back? Yeah, right. There was a leak. Come on. So does that help you start to see what I mean by metavirus? We're going to see a cyber attack, and it's going to hit the headlines as heavy, probably even heavier than COVID did. But we know that COVID was just get outside, get some sun. And that was the risk, right?
Probably use the same approach with this when this comes. It's like, turn off those screens, get outside. Get some sun.
But those social media programs, they've got this down to a science. I mean, think about it. COVID got everybody to shelter in place. Oh, social distancing, go home, meet with each other online, and sign up for Zoom. Zoom became a household name. Literally overnight. I was using Zoom for 2 or 3 years, and prior to COVID, I would tell someone, hey, do you want to meet on Zoom? And they were like, what's that? COVID hit and everybody knew what Zoom was. Well, that data was all collected. Everything. Kids went to school on Google School. or Google Classroom or whatever it was called. Signing up for digital IDs and storing all that data. That was just the data collection that they needed so that they could give AI to the people in 2022. Why? Well, because we need more data. How do we get more data? Well, these people are now used to being online all the time and they're talking back and forth. Now let's give them this. So then people got it, downloaded it, and I'm leveraging it. I don't mind. It's a machine. It's pushing buttons for me. That's its purpose. That's fine. But you have to remember that I'm prioritizing this. I'm not signing up for the next best, greatest thing. I'm building my own model on the computer that I'm meeting with you. It's not out there in the cloud. I'm not subscribing to these things. I'm hosting them. So I'm not doing what everybody else is doing, which is just submitting all their data to these. Did you know that if you have if there is a matter in court, this is now Supreme Court ruled, boilerplate law, that if you have data that is being associated with AI regarding your matter, it is no longer something that you can use in court.
What do you mean by?
Let's say, for instance, you create evidence to support your case as you're innocent.
But you used AI to do it, so then the court would just rule it out.
That's right. Which means what? Which means what? It means
they don't trust the AI information.
Go further. They have access to it.
So they already know.
I created all of this content here. I leveraged a machine. But because I leveraged a machine to which I subscribed, that data can be matched to the account that was used to create it.
As opposed to creating the data.
And the court is allowed to, correct.
Wait, the court is allowed to what?
The court is allowed to dismiss they're allowed to dismiss whatever it is that you bring forward in court. If they can attribute what you created to be on a subscribed machine. Why? Because it's not your property.
So is that basically making more of what is people's not belong to the people, right? Because like if I have a situation, I'm not sure that I'm tracking what you're saying, so I'm checking this out. If I have a situation and then I go on to chat whatever AI to sort it through more, get a few more resources, what I put in is no longer mine.
That's correct.
And so in a way, it's like they've been taking wealth from people, but this is like actually taking your experience, your life, your like, oh, you no longer can use that in court, even though it was yours. Now that you've intermingled it with AI, it's no longer yours.
And we have been manipulated. We've been like, we had the internet for free, and then you get addicted to it. Now you're going to pay for it. Same thing with music or movies. That it sounds like the same thing is occurring with AI, where it's free until it's not, and then when it's not, and you use my service, that's my data. That's not yours. So have fun with that.
Well, even when it's free, it's not our data anymore, right? Like that's what we're paying. It's our data.
If here's a way that you can know whether or not it's your data. Do you possess it? Let's go to what we've been learning about blockchain, cryptocurrencies. If you don't have the keys, it's not your account. So it's the same thing with this. The data that I'm creating is being created on this computer. I'm not using it. That's why, Audrey Lynn, that's why you liked the terms and conditions for Venice so much. Because that data stays on your device. That's the only one that's web-based where the data is not stored on some centralized server somewhere. Amazing. You know, and this brings us to the point, right? We are, all of us, been conditioned to pass responsibility of our data off. Like you said, Audrey Lynn, the internet was free. All you needed was a phone line with a modem, and you could access the internet without a subscription.
Or control, or
Yep.
nanny keeping, or any of that kind of stuff. Totally buyer beware, as it were.
Yep. And what's interesting about that is that in that format, it was more secure.
Isn't that by design?
Of course, it was the ultimate decentralization. The IP address of your computer is your wallet address in exchanging data.
Makes sense. Mm-hmm.
We passed that responsibility. Yeah, sure, you still have an IP address, but now you need permission from an ISP, Internet Service Provider. Oh, isn't that what these language model providers are? They're just the data service provider, right? You're putting in input, they're processing it and providing you with output. You're going in, it's no different. It's no different. You're going in, you know, in 1994, the fall of 1994, our whole family just huddled around the computer. It was a big family event because we spent almost 2 hours downloading a 30-second video from the zoo in San Diego. In order to get that, we had to type in input so that the message could be sent out into the interwebs and we would get output back. When you're going and creating a command in your address bar, it's your internet service provider that goes and retrieves that information and delivers it to you. You've got a modem, sure, but you're not connected with that ultimate decentralization anymore. You have an address and they have an account for you which they use to transmit that data. So it's the same thing. That's why when there was that journalist that was in Silicon Valley there a couple years ago now, where he was asking some of the big tech billionaires that were at this conference, hey, you know, in the scope of AI, where are we right now? And the answer was, about 1996.
What do you
If
mean?
we were to compare AI with the internet, we are about 1996 in the development of AI.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, because it's going to replace the internet. You're not going to be, like, I don't think that by the end of next year, you're going to be using browsers in the way that you use them now. You're going to be using an interface where you speak to an agent and the agent goes and browses the internet for you and brings back all of things that you wanted that's related. Look at how you were using Perplexity, Audrey Lynn. Right? As much as this tool sucked, you got a snapshot of what's possible there. Mm-hmm. It was running the search engines. It was going and Googling things. It was taking your request and going and doing an hour's worth of rabbit hole digging and presenting everything that you would have to spend hours to search.
It would have been nice if the sources that it used were the ones that I told it to use,
right?
Instead of the mainstream bullshit crap. That
and
if
of
I
course,
didn't know what I already know, I would have been led down the garden path away from what I understand to be true.
Correct. And the reason why you had that experience was because that's by Perplexity.
Mm.
That's a model that you subscribe to, right? Oh, you didn't. You got a free subscription with your phone plan or something like that, wasn't it?
Yeah. I
Yeah,
did.
yeah. Yeah, see, there's another hook, right? Oh, get the phone with us and we'll give you $200 worth of AI tokens.
Yep.
So here we are at the next dawn, so to speak, right? We're not going to be like the internet was a novel thing back then. It's not novel now. But what is? Oh, a machine that will use the internet on my behalf. Passively. There's this one guy that I came across on TikTok I don't know, about a week ago or so. He has his screen on his computer is actually graphical. Like it's like a top-down office floor with cubicles. And each cubicle has an agent. And then he has a big office where he has another agent that he talks to. But that agent that he talks to delegates and manages and does everything passively with all of the other agents in their own little cubicles. So he has an entire production studio on his desktop. And he only has to talk to one of those agents as if he was the owner of the company having to talk to the manager, get the updates. And it's all interfaced on his computer. He can actually see top down the entire floor of his agency.
Wow. What is he actually doing with that? Like what if that were a business, if that was a corporation, what is it doing?
The same thing that he was doing before AI, which was creating marketing material for small businesses.
Wow.
So, for instance, a small business wants to, let's say great example, they are hosting a market. And one of the vendors wants to create a special. Buy one of these and get two of those type thing.
Mm-hmm.
Well, that needs to have a little tabletop, a little thing to put onto the table so that people who are walking by, they can see that special offer. Well, that's called collateral in marketing. And someone has to create it, usually a graphic designer. But now he has an agent that can make that. And what he's done is that he has that lead agent actually scanning Fiverr.com. Fiverr.com is a freelancer's website where freelancers will go and say, here are the skills that I can do. Well, all he did was that he got his agent to create an account at Fiverr, and it scans Fiverr 24 hours a day, 7 days a week for jobs that he knows his agents can complete.
Oh, wait. Oh my gosh.
He did the work. He did that work for 10 years. He labored learning that craft so well, he was able to teach a machine how to do it. Oh, you mean he doesn't have to be a glorified babysitter watching people do that work? Yeah, that's attractive. I had an agency, and getting people to coordinate across different vectors was like pushing rope sometimes. But now you've got machines that have no emotion to being slaves 24/7. Hell to the yes.
So
We are not
that means
going-
that people going and hiring like they think is a Fiverr is actually one of his many agents doing the job.
Yep. And he's getting good ratings. Why? Because normally speaking, when you hire someone, they come back and they say, thank you so much for this job. I'm going to get to work on it right away. And then 3 or 4 days later, they've got the first draft. But no, now the first draft is being delivered within 20 minutes. We're not going to use the internet the same way ever, 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 ever again. I think that by the end of next year, browser use will be to a minimum.
And websites, how does that work? It's like part of what the AI is scraping is all these websites. But if it becomes no longer useful for people to make websites and put up information, then what will AI be scraping?
I believe that if we expect to have any relevance digitally, we will be necessarily creating websites like we were before, except they're not going to be optimized for human consumption. They're going to be optimized for machine consumption so that our target market, which is typing in input on Perplexity, will end up seeing your content. Why? Because Perplexity is going to go looking for on the internet for information regarding what their user input. But the thing is that most websites are going to be optimized for human consumption. But if you have a website that does the same thing, delivers the value, but now in a language pattern that machines can identify, your brand will be brought up within that context with that user that doesn't even go looking for your website. They don't even know you exist. They might not even know that the product or service that you're offering exists. They're asking AI questions, and the AI is like, oh, let me go look for this for you. And if your website is not optimized for a machine to read, then you will be left in the dust. You will be invisible. No different than how when Google Places came out, the marketing thing was, if you're not on Google Maps, people are not going to find you. And in fact, even if people didn't use Google Maps to find you, if you didn't have Google Maps, Google will de-rank you in search results on the platform. And it was true. You got Google Maps not because you expect, like if you had a business and you didn't have a location where people would come to your business, you relied solely on digital means to interact with your brand, and you didn't have a Google Maps listing, you didn't have as good search engine optimization. Well, now it's going to be AI retrieval optimization, not search engine optimization. That's why the website that I'm building right now for myself, yeah, there's the human interactability to it, but I want also to be able to reach people who are using models. And so that's why I'm developing a process to take transcripts of the work that we do together, taking those transcripts and processing them into machine-friendly language patterns that act as metadata to each of the pages that humans interact with. Because I want there to be two faces to it. I want to be the front-facing, human-friendly version available, but also the back-end metadata to be available for machines so that machines get the context. The presentation for humans will actually fail in presenting the context for a machine to more quickly identify what the website's about. Why am I doing that? Because I've always prepared for the future. I've always seen what tech is at this present time and been able to identify where it will be in the future. I was one of the first people in Western Canada to have the license to do text marketing. When I was presenting text marketing, you know how it's like you want to get a reservation at a restaurant and they say, what's your phone number? And we'll send you a text. Or if you want to reserve at a restaurant, you can text them. I was pioneering that technology 5 years before it became something that restaurants were accepting. When I was pitching it as a pioneer, I would go into a business. I did this for several businesses, and they looked at me like I was crazy. They said, nobody is going to want texts on their phone. That's what they said. And so my business failed because I was 5 years ahead of time, knowing what they would need. Trying to sell it to them was the biggest mistake I ever made. By the time people were interested in it, I was uninterested in the technology because it was so much more advanced by that time. There was way more important things to do, and that was called chatbots. That's where now you could automate a process on Facebook. I had an entire automation built that I was reselling to car dealerships because car dealerships, they were having a difficult time in being able to maintain relationships with people online with social media. So what I did was that I built an entire automated system where someone can go and find out how much their monthly payment would be on whatever car they clicked on by having a chat with a bot. And this would be in your Facebook Messenger. And we did such a good job that, in fact, after a year, it was no longer effective because Facebook was recognizing that we were acquiring customers without paying for ads. And so they blocked the technology from being able to function in the same way so that we couldn't continue running our businesses that way. So then I moved on to the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing, and the next thing. Because I've always known how is this technology going to shape our consumption of data? That's always been at the front of my mind. Wow, I felt like I kind of ranted there a little bit. I get into that, and I want to be more cool and calm and collected and chill. I want to present things of great and incredible weight, deadpan. I think it would have more weight if I did that way.
I don't know. I feel like maybe my questions contribute to tapping into things that you have some, I don't necessarily call it rant energy. You referred to it that way, but I just feel like there's some, I think passion isn't quite the word I'm looking for, but there's some heat. There's some sense of what's happening in the world, and that's not above board, and you're exposing it, which I think deserves some heat.
Thank you for recognizing that and helping me see another perspective. My projection is that I'm ranting because deep down inside, I still hold resentment for being so rejected throughout my career.
Mm-hmm.
Most of the things that I talk about are not things within the purview of people around me for quite some time until it is. And then I'm just like, what? Now you're interested in it? I'm not. Yeah, I'm well on to the next thing. And I've even said many times, like, wouldn't it have been something if after COVID especially, once people clued in, because a lot of people have clued in now that COVID was a scam. But they'll sit there and be like, oh yeah, that COVID thing was a scam. But then they will still say that I have Trump derangement syndrome because I don't think he's a good guy. And it's like, okay, so you rejected my message before the fraud was exposed. At what point does someone kind of come to that realization that perhaps maybe they should be paying attention to me again? You know, like just because I nailed it last time and the time before and the time before and the time before, what is the mental block that people have from listening to what I have to say today? Now, our community notwithstanding, of course, but that's where that rant energy comes from. Because it's like people I got to give people's heads a shake. How come you can't see this? Like, why is it that I'm resorting to using words to express what it is that has been visible for decades?
Well, because people can't, if they can see it, but if they named it, they would have to own it and have to do something about it. Because you've named it and owned it and have done things about it, that makes you different other than them, so they can't relate. It's part of
Right.
self-responsibility. See a problem, fix a problem.
Right.
As opposed to what I grew up with was see a problem, ignore it. That ignorance was bliss. And I think a lot of people do that because who wants to admit that they were a fool? Who wants to admit that they were taken in? Even though they saw the signs, who would want to do that? Not a lot of folks.
Well, especially with the stakes involved, right? Like, it's not just like, oh, I got that one a little wrong. It's like, and then what I did because I got that wrong, how I impacted my future, my loved ones, it's big, it's deep.
Mm-hmm.
You think about the narrative about the also common narrative that we throw around about Nazism and like, oh, the problem, I don't know if I'm going to say this right. Let's see. We look at it as a historical oddity that people just did their job, quote unquote, and like we would never be so, we would not do that. We would know, we would not cause harm, we would not participate, and all the while we are participating. So in a way, it's like you otherize that story, and it's like we're not like that at the same time that we're being managed and manipulated to do similar things.
Almost like those patterns are more subtle now. They
Yeah.
go
Oh, yeah.
more unnoticed, even though they're not to the same extreme. They are more unnoticed.
Right. Yeah. Well, it's just like you've talked about that there's a war that's not recognized as a war.
Right.
It's the war of the mind. It's the war of language. It's the war of, it just, what is it? My friend says epistemological war? Is that a thing? Okay, I might be saying it wrong.
Yeah.
So people don't recognize that we're in a war, and they don't recognize where the battleground is in between our ears.
Yeah, you were even saying like what people are doing is that they're literally transferring their consciousness. They're transferring their memories. They're transferring their ways of being. They're transferring their work habits. They're transferring their conversations. All of it. They're transferring their consciousness. And this speaks to one of the sayings that I have, and that is the reason why people have no idea what the nature of the victory that they could have is because they don't know the nature of the war.
Right. And
when you try to point out the nature of the war, it is so uncomfortable that people feel that someone else must take care of that for them. It's got it handled. Oh, don't worry. Jassara Nassara. That was another one. Oh. Jassara Nassara. You know what, though? I fell for it, too. Not that one. There was another one that I fell for back in 2014. It was just a lottery mentality, is what it was.
What was that?
Oh, the global currency reset, which is not fake. That is definitely occurring. It tagged along a bunch of people that thought specific currencies were going to revalue to 4,000, their 4,000x, their current value. Right. And so I fell into that a little bit. Thankfully, I didn't lose as much money as other people have simply because I recognized, oh, wait a second, I was wrong on this, and got out of that and put the money elsewhere. But that, yeah, it's easy to that's the thing about Earth itself, is that it's tempting to believe that there is an easier way to do things, and when in fact, typically speaking, if it's worth having, it's going to take effort, it's going to take striving, it's going to take movement and exertion of energy of our own. It's that self-responsibility. You want to have food sovereignty, but you don't want to grow a garden. Okay, well, then you're looking for someone else to make the garden for you, because you're going to have to pay the grocery store, or someone is going to you're going to have to pay someone to get the food to you if you're not going to get it yourself, right? So people who say we need more food sovereignty, but they won't even defy the city and put a garden in their backyard, which, by the way, is now occurring in some major cities. Cities are telling people they can't put gardens in their backyard anymore.
What? In Canada?
I don't know where the
I know
jurisdictions
that's happening
are.
I don't remember, it's the Netherlands, or there's one of those that's happening.
Yeah,
I didn't-
I don't think it's in Canada yet, but I think you're right. In Europe, it's where most of this kind of thing is happening. Well, that's the UN for you, right? Or not the UN, the Eurozone. And again, it's history, right? It's just history replaying itself.
So I had another thought back in that just a few minutes ago with the I'm going to have trouble connecting it to what we were talking about. I can't remember which thing, but there's also then the isolation. That's the only part I'm remembering. Just a second.
Social distancing?
Oh, because there's that, but because there's no recognition of the war that's actually occurring, we are also isolated from each other. Do you know what I mean? Like when there is a real or even a fake natural disaster, but people know it's happening, they come to each other's aid. They, bond together. So very difficult things can be navigated by communities when they come together.
Yes.
Horrible tragedies can be grieved publicly, and the people that are in grief are supported just by the shared knowledge that that's happening.
Yes.
With what's been going on the last 5-6 years, there's none of that.
Mm-hmm.
Was it Ed Dowd that was saying that in the second and third quarter of 2021, more, and I don't know if this was just US, more people in the age group of whatever the age group is for the military. So it was like 18 to 42 or something like that. That more people died in that age group than did in the entire Vietnam War.
I have heard that due to both COVID and the Project Warp Speed, between the two of them, the number of deaths have now exceeded the number of soldiers lost by both Canada and the US in the last 200 years.
Wow. Well, the specific statistic of second and third quarter of 2021, if you think of when certain things came out, so it was correlating specifically to that and not the general COVID that came in 2020.
Devastating.
However, no communal knowledge of that, no recognition of, people don't even know, just like they don't know that the freedom thing went across Canada, the truckers, like so many people don't even know that happened. people don't even know that we lost that many people in that age group. And why was it in that age group? Well, that's workforce.
Mhm.
And there were certain mandates that people had to do things or lose their jobs.
Yep.
And they didn't necessarily understand that they were making that decision, right? Like they
Mhm.
didn't understand. It's just like, this is what you do to be a good citizen. And
Yep. And keep your job and
Yeah.
and protect your grandmother too.
yeah, and support your kids and all that. Yeah.
We're in this together. That's those words. Anytime you hear people using that virtue signaling tactic, you know that you're headed for a cliff. Yes, we are in this all together, kind of like the buffalo head smashed in buffalo jump. Does anybody know what that is?
No.
Yep.
So there is an actual place here in Alberta.
Yeah, Southern
It's
Alberta.
called. What's that?
Southern Alberta.
Yeah, it's called. It's called. There's an indigenous name for it. I don't know what that is, but it is now a World Heritage Site, like as in global heritage site. And the purpose of this particular site was used by the Plains Indians. I'm going to bring up the site here. And this is the location where they would herd the buffalo, and they would actually herd them in such a way that they would willingly jump off the cliff, and they would dash themselves upon the rocks below, and then the hunters could just go and pick them up. They didn't have to work as hard. And so this here, head smashed in buffalo jump, is the name of it, and this is the analogy that I use whenever I'm watching humans lap up the mandates. Oh, we got to do this. Yep, you're all in it together. You are all in jumping off the cliff together. Good job.
Rather like lemmings.
Yep.
Only
And
buffalo.
What's worse is that with COVID, as fake as it was, it accomplished its purpose, not because it was real and not because there was a real threat, but simply because the programming language delivered its purpose. It got people into a thought pattern that prepared them for the next fake virus. And this time I think it's going to be cyber. And it'll manifest itself as a chip war.
What'd
We're
you
gonna
say?
fight-
So next time it's going to be what?
A cyber. It's going to be a
cyber.
cyber.
I thought you said
attack.
fiber, and I'm like, that's a different conversation, Paul. It's going to be fiber. They're going to be marketing us to death.
Yeah, no, a cyber war. And it's going to be fake again, like with the Anthropic story. Oh no, Claude Code is now open source. We're so upset. Only 2 weeks later to reveal that no, we've got a model that's and further to that, I didn't even finish telling that story. Anthropic comes out with Mythos is so dangerous we can't let it out there because then it's just going to be used to hack into whatever. And the week after that, OpenAI, Sam Altman or / Microsoft's nonprofit organization, they came out with a statement saying it's okay because we've developed a new model that's coming out soon, and it will be able to detect when someone is using AIs nefariously. So don't worry, you'll be safe.
You can trust us.
You'll be safe. Just go that direction. Feel the spirit. We're all in this together. I'm so cynical, eh?
How can you, is it even cynical though in the current environment? Like, or is it just recognition, pattern recognition? What's cynical about pattern recognition?
Well, I think that the cynicism is just.
That's what I mean. Yes.
Like it's like, yes, it's cynicism and it's warranted.
Right. Well, with what I was saying, this is where I also see the multi levels of the, I could say, the crime or the harm, which is that not only did people die, or people were hugely disabled and suffering. I'm sure you've seen some of those videos of what people were going through after
Oh yeah.
receiving certain substances. And so people were gaslit. People that lost loved ones were mocked and
Yep.
silenced.
Derided.
Yeah. And people that were that stepped to the front of the line, they were not, that then suffered, were totally abandoned. And so it's just like, and then there's all these divisions and silence between people that had every reason to care for each other and love each other, right? So it's just like the levels of the harm is.
My youngest got the special sauce, and within 2 years, I was seeing dramatic shifts in her health. She went from an early young woman, vivacious, full of energy, to needing naps, several naps a day. Yeah. Put on a ton of weight. The short list of health conditions with prescriptions to go with it. And I had asked her, I begged her, please get the special sauce, but wait 5 years. Please just wait 5 years and let's see how this unfolds. There's not enough backup data for this. And I was told, oh, Mom, these people are smarter than I am, and I'm going to trust their judgment.
And they are smarter.
Oh,
She's
yeah.
not wrong.
But not in the way in which she
right.
thought.
Right.
She thought that they were wise and that they were really looking out for her well-being. And
No.
And I tried to, I took her to 2 different live blood cell analysis people, and I don't think that they were skilled enough to see what was really going on, or that was not necessarily their focus. And yeah, they found nothing. So, again, Mom is this crazy granola woman who, sees the boogeyman in every shadow, and yet my health is, I'm not to the finish line of perfection, and when stuff comes up, I generally know how to take care of it.
Yeah.
But I'm the crazy one.
And this experience is so repeated across. I mean,
you were talking about the division in between families. There are certain topics that I cannot talk to with my daughter or my eldest at all. It has literally, to the point of funny kitty videos and what she had for dinner the night before. That's essentially the depth of the conversations we get to have.
Yeah. And I have felt this so deeply in terms of people I know, so people that are aware of what's going on. Obviously, it's a different scenario with people that are not aware. Like the same thing is happening, but there's not the division because they're bonded over it. And just recently, I've been looking more historically and going, oh, right. This is not the first time that people's offspring have been stolen in one way or another, right? Like that's so repeated in history. Even if you don't go to the conspiracy theory reset stuff, just right out in the history that is culturally accepted, even, it's been over and over again. Somehow I hadn't quite, I've just been in this kind of shock and horror with this. And then it's like, oh, actually, this has been happening in one way or another over and
Isn't
over.
it a Jesuit saying that says, "Give me a child until he is 7 and I'll show you the man"?
Yeah. Yeah. But now this is happening with grown children. They're not children anymore. I mean,
Well, they are, because they're incredibly immature.
well, but I guess what I'm saying is, like, I know people, maybe this is what you were saying, that have brought their children up to adulthood without having partaken in the schedule, the special sauce schedule. They've made it all the way through, very healthy, very strong immune systems. But as adults, they went for this latest. And
well, I look at my son, and he absolutely hated the fact that the vast majority of his clothes came from Value Village or Goodwill, that they were secondhand. And so, and he also resents the fact that he was home educated, because he does not have the cultural reference points to media that his friends do.
oh
so
no.
Yeah, it's terrible. Oh my God. You'd have to like watch all those Simpson episodes to catch up. And he was a very strong thinker for himself. I mean, we did this all the time. And yet when he moved to Vancouver, when he was months shy of 17, he was introduced into a culture and a way of being that there was no parental support. There wasn't adult support. There wasn't anybody there to guide him and encourage him to continue to think for himself, to look at the evidence of what was occurring around him. He simply, and he said, my friends we parent each other. We don't have parents. We parent each other. And I think this is what has occurred to this majority of Gen Xers or Gen Zs or whatever the Gen is, where both mom and dad are out of the house. So somebody has to raise these children. And it's either the television, the device, nanny, not necessarily any kind of family relation, other neighborhood children. I think this is where gangs have become so enticing, is that it's the replacement for the family. And so to me, it's not necessarily logical, but I can see where these young people who were raised without these special sauce influences and whatnot, they want to be a part of the culture around them, and and feeling separated because of how their growing up years would accept, yeah, okay, I'll take this thing because I want to be like everybody else. I want to stop being weird. I want to fit in so desperately.
Mm-hmm. Not your typical market analysis.
Well, we do this probably once or twice a week, where it's like we stray from the charts. I didn't even get into cryptos, and that's fine.
They'll still be there tomorrow.
We did an analysis of the marketplace. Thank you, everybody.
Thank you.
Have a good rest of the day. See you.
Bye-bye.